is July 24, 5:05 a.m. Have a really good book for y'all today. But before we start, a little caveat about this book. This book deals with some serious subject matter, so there's going to be a little bit of warning right now. If you're sensitive to certain subjects, adult themes, seriousness, want to be careful about where you proceed. So, Christy Aldridge wrote the book The Breaking of Mona Hill, and it written a few years ago, and I discovered it, I want to say a few weeks ago on Meta on Facebook. And it's the second book that I had read by Christy Aldridge, and really good. I'll tell you right now, it gets 5 stars because it just really was an incredible write. Very thought-invoking, feeling-invoking sort of a write. And something that I hadn't read quite like it in some time, so I definitely appreciate it. I will say that the serious themes and the religious context and the setting for the story were very integral. The setting is from the Bible Belt, and it's very apparent in a lot of the subject matter and how characters treat subject and so on and so forth. So, very awesome, I will say. So we'll go ahead and start with the read. Chapter 1, Genesis 3:16. To the woman he said, I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. There was an overpowering feeling of shame and despair washing over the teenager girl as she stood in the driveway of the abortion clinic. She knew they offered different options. The brochure outlined a lot of good services what the people inside could help with, things like healthcare treatments and vaccines, cancer screenings, exams, amenities for both men and women. Most of the things at the brochure seemed like they were more helpful than harmful. The building itself looked different than how she had imagined. She expected a place that gave her the same feeling a bar did, maybe not flashing neon signs with promises of alcohol, but the same inviting exterior. The same temptation when waiting inside, a place that screamed, come in and sin with me. So the first couple paragraphs, the opener, I found really, really powerful because, I mean, you could think of anywhere you are normally throughout the day. You could be at work, you could be at, college campus, you could be anywhere, but most people don't think of finding themselves in that particular location. And the parallel, like with the bar and all that stuff, was pretty masterful, I have to admit. Let me get back to it. But the outside of the clinic looked normal. There was posters on the windows of smiling girls, some with babies in bright, happy colors. There was still a sense of inviting, but not in a sinister way. There was something calming about the building. It didn't make her feel like she was about to enter a baby-killing factory. It was not the heathen hell Mona had been brought up to believe. Some of the bigger churches in the area would come here and picket sometimes. She watched it on the news. Her mama would all... lost my place. Her mama would all but applaud them for doing the Lord's work, stopping those poor girls from killing their unborn babies. But Mona always wondered if it was so simple. She never felt like they applauding for them and what they did. It never felt sincere that they claimed they were trying to save the babies. Her focus would land on the girls, the ones that looked terrified to walk in and be judged. They would decide to walk away. The church people would clap for those girls, but Mona felt sorry for them. It didn't seem right that someone should carry something that they didn't want. Sure, they might have laid down and had sex, but it was still their body. And Mona had to imagine that they had other circumstances that kept the news from being joyful. She did. Her palm rested on her stomach. She imagined a bump out there. Lost my place. She imagined a bump, but there wasn't one. She wasn't more than 6 weeks pregnant. She knew the exact day. Based off the book that she read in the library, her baby wasn't even the size of a sweet pea. Their eyes, nose, and ears weren't even fully formed yet. So the thing I like about, the introduction of the setting of the library to learn about this girl's circumstances is one that invokes a lot of loneliness, I do believe. And that, for the story, is really integral, very important, because that's how this particular character felt at that time, pretty damn lonely. But it had a heartbeat. She didn't know how something so small could even have a heart yet, but she knew it was there. She wondered if she would hear it today. She did hope that the pregnancy test she had taken was wrong. The shame the girls on TV showed was the same that she felt. She didn't want to kill a baby. The book called it an embryo, a fetus. Those words made her feel better, but not completely. She kept thinking about that heartbeat. If she was quiet enough, she felt that she could feel it beating. At night when she slept, she imagined it was beating so loud that everyone in the house could hear it. The whole night within those taller walls, There would be steady beating, a rhythmic terror that would reveal all of Mona Hill's sins. It would put them right on display for everyone to see, and she knew that would happen if someone found out about it. A car pulled in behind her, and she realized what she had to decide. Standing out in the parking lot, that was really going to make her look suspicious. If someone she knew drove by, they'd tell her parents. She couldn't have that. Fear made her go inside. So, I kind of want to stop the reading there because there's many elements as to why the main character is where she's at, doing what she's doing, and then what leads to the explanation as what got her there. And it has a lot of emotional punch to it, and I kind of don't want to take it away by reading more. And it's hard to know when to stop reading because the writer did a very good job of working it in subtly, and so it just hits you, something like that. And after you get hit with the reality of this poor young girl, the reality that persists after that gets even harder. And that's one of the things that I liked about the story is it delves with so many, kind of I shouldn't say kind of serious, but serious topics, ageful topics, and it's set it up into such a way that you knew immediately what the character was feeling. And when reading it, it was kind of interesting because myself, I'm a devout Christian, and when I read it, there weren't opposing feelings. You knew where that character was. You knew what was going through her mind, her heart, why she was there, and kind of the impact that her family had on her, environmental impacts and stuff like that. And that can be very difficult to write. It's a very important thing when a writer is able to channel those elements and make it work so that you, the reader, are not stuck in your world reading something. You're put into the position of the characters, into their world, so you can, quite frankly, empathize with what might be going on. And I think it was masterful how she talked about this main character talked about her sins, taking ownership of what she did and everything. And that is something that's very useful because it's a challenge to do without kind of creating distance between you and a book character. Whereas ownership of sins, it's kind of like you're in this character's heart and mind immediately, which is really helpful for a very powerful story. Now, the other element that has a lot of power into stories that are thriller, horror, action, that particular genre, is the religious component. Because religion and Judeo-Western society is a big part of how we operate, whether we are religious or not. So there's so much context that is available in our daily lives that most people are kind of unaware of, the origin of certain phrases, certain sayings. And I'm trying to say this without giving away those phrases or sayings because I don't want to take away from the reality that this book kind of molds and meshes with reality depending on where you are, what part of the country or the world even. And what this does, bringing in the religious context, is it makes it haunting. For example, a lot of people, in the first part I read that passage from the book of Genesis, a lot of people this day and age have never heard a passage like that. They probably never read the Bible, which of course is not a bad thing. I'm not pointing any fingers like that, but you may not have heard language like that, which existed thousands of years ago, 6,000 years ago, right around that time. And the reality is that type of language, as far as obeying the husband, the man, or whatever, it doesn't exist to the point where we hear it regularly, but there's a lot of themes around certain elements that are taken out of context, put into a hyper context, you name it. And that can be very haunting, especially because we all have so many different beliefs. There are so many different beliefs out there. And the use of a religious context like that in a story can make it very powerful, very upsetting. It can do a lot of things for characterization that makes it a good story because it's a feeling-invoking story, a thought-invoking one. So 5 stars for The Breaking of Mona Hill. I didn't do a super long reading on it because it's a really good book. Definitely want you to read it, and I don't want to give away a lot of the pretext for what happens down the road. Also, I must say, my second read, I really liked it. It was a novelette, and this particular one I'm not going to be able to read, even though I'm promoting it. I have it all as available. I recommend getting it because it was free, which is always nice. But it was very It was very punchy and good, but it was a little too colorful. I don't have a problem reading it. I love reading stuff that is too much, controversial, you name it, but I'm probably not going to read it out loud. So, but check it out because it is free and the author does some really good works. So the links for it will be down in the, in this region. I forget words now, I'm older. Sorry about that. But really good thing. Check it out. Author has a lot of other good titles following with it. So thank you for joining this read with me today. The Breaking of Mona Hill was a really good book. 5 stars. Check it out because author did a very good job working with the characters, the feelings, so on and so forth. So if you made it with me this far, thank you. I appreciate it. If you didn't make it, I tried. We should have a couple votes coming up for what I'm going to read next. And hopefully some folks put forth some suggestions. We'll see you next